So those are a key element, I think, to rebuilding our economy in Oklahoma if we're going to be successful. One of the things I'll also tell you is I believe we have to do something about health care in Oklahoma. We can't wait on Washington to come up with a health care plan. They're going to fight it in D.C. for a long time. But what's happening today in our own state is we have rural hospitals struggling to stay open. We have doctors who are not staying in the rural communities. We have a shortage of nurses and physician assistants. We don't have the type of healthcare professionals in place today that take care of the growing needs in Oklahoma. And in many places in the state, particularly in the western part of the state, we have people who are having to drive well over an hour just to see a physician. We can't have that if we're going to have a successful economy, because no one's bringing their company, no one's going to create jobs and build a company of their own in a community where they don't have access to affordable health care. We must address that issue in Oklahoma. The other thing I think we have to do is the real issue in health care and high cost is our insurance companies. There's no question in my mind that we must reform health insurance in Oklahoma. First of all, I believe that we are to pass a Patient's Bill of Rights in Oklahoma. That says basically your physician who deals with you, who knows your records, he knows what your needs are, makes the decision on what your health care will be. Not an accountant and an insurance company trying to figure out what the bottom line is for them. I support a Patient's Bill of Rights that basically says that if your doctor says it's necessary, that it's medically necessary, then they must cover it. That bill has been passed, or has been in the Senate a number of times with Senator Jim Wilson. I've supported it 100% because I believe those decisions are best made by people who know your health care needs. Secondly, we need to change in Oklahoma what's happening now. In Oklahoma, when you spend $10 on health care, on your premiums, only $6 of the 10 are going into actual health care costs. That means insurance companies get $4 or 40% for executive pay, bonuses, overhead, and administrative costs. Now, I like what someone told me the other day. He says, so even in Vegas, the casino owners consider it cheating if you take more than 20%. Okay? In Oklahoma, we let insurance companies take 40%. The rest of the country, it's only 20%. And why we allow insurance companies to take your money that you're paying for premiums and spend it anywhere else in health care makes no sense to me. And we also need to pass a law in the state, and we tried to, and Senator Lamb killed it on the Senate floor, was to stop insurance companies from paying bonuses to their employees for the simple reason to deny your claim. That goes on. That should not happen. And I will tell you that doctors will argue with you that part of the reason why their cost goes up in providing medical care is they spend all their time fighting insurance companies to get them to reimburse for the claims that they're submitting. We must, in Oklahoma, invest in our infrastructure. We've gone too long in this state of just band-aiding everything together. We will build something and we'll never maintain it. We let it crumble, and then we'll spend 3 times as much rebuilding it than we would have if we just maintained it to begin with. Now, some of my colleagues in the Capitol said they want to be conservative with our money and they don't want to spend any more money than necessary. Well, I see nothing conservative about spending 3 times more than you really had to if you had just maintained something. And so I believe we should put together an infrastructure plan for Oklahoma that allows us to improve our roads and bridges, our airports, allows us to fix our water systems and sewer systems. All of them are essential into our ability to create jobs. Also looking at rail as a potential for this state. And we also must look at the quality of life issues. Things like whether your community is safe, whether you have a place to take your children for recreation, whether there are opportunities in your community to experience things like the orchestra, the arts, because all those things are important when people look at where they're going to locate and where they're going to raise their families. I didn't think that when I first came to the legislature. In fact, when I first came to the legislature, I thought, what in the world are we doing spending money on an arts council? Our money could be better spent somewhere else. And then when ConocoPhillips decided they were going to move out of Oklahoma, and all the other guys in the Capitol were saying, oh, they're moving out for this reason, they're not staying here because of the income tax, That's keeping them from staying in Oklahoma. I decided to send a letter to Archie Dunham, who was president and CEO at the time of Conoco. And I said, I'd like to come down and visit with you just for the simple fact to find out, as a young Oklahoman, what do we need to do to improve our state? And he welcomed me down. I spent 2 hours. I went down not on taxpayers' money, but my own, and met with Archie Dunham at the Conoco headquarters. And you know what he told me? He says, your education system, your infrastructure, and quality of life. And he says that includes the arts, giving our kids exposure to things that we want them to experience, a whole number of things. And one of the other things he told me that I thought was interesting was that they didn't want to move a company or leave their headquarters someplace where they couldn't get a direct flight from the east or west coast, because they didn't want to be in airports all day long. So there's some things we have to do to be smart about creating jobs, and things that we have to do in order to be strategic in how we spend our money and how we better prepare Oklahoma to be successful. Too many of my colleagues want to spend too much of their time talking about, we got to beat Texas. And of course, they're always referring to, OU beating Texas, or OSU beating Texas for that matter. They want to beat Texas in football. And while it's nice to beat Texas in football, we're always really after the national championship in the end. Isn't that what we're all for in football? We ought to be the same way in economic development in the state. Yeah, it would be nice to beat Texas and creating jobs and bringing things, but do we really want to limit ourselves just to the states that surround us, or do we want to compete on a global scale for real opportunities that makes Oklahoma grow and makes our communities places where your children and grandchildren can decide to stay here and raise their own families? The same values that we all grew up with. And that's the real issue for us in Oklahoma. And those are the issues that I want to focus on in Oklahoma City as Lieutenant Governor. I believe more than ever, Oklahomans are concerned about whether they have serious leaders to deal with the issues that face us. I think they're tired of the back and forth between the two parties. I think they're ready for someone to look up and see what the issues are and to roll up their sleeves and get the job done. That's where most Oklahomans are. And I think if we talk about creating opportunities for our state, we will be successful in this campaign. And I think we will be successful if we put the real goal at the front of everybody at the state capitol. As Lieutenant Governor, I won't just be there to cut ribbons, because a lot of times that's what's happened with our Lieutenant Governor's job. We've just let it become a ceremonial job. I actually want to be a job that's active every day, one that has a strong partnership with the Department of Commerce, a strong partnership with the Department of Tourism, that will be at the state capitol every day during the legislative session, pushing an agenda, creating legislation that will allow us to move our state forward and be progressive. Those are the things I intend to do. I've been at the legislature now 12 years. I've never sat on the back row the entire 12 years out there. I've never let other people just do whatever's going to happen. I've engaged in the process the entire time, and that's the way I'll be as Lieutenant Governor. I'll be engaged fully when the legislature is in session and when it's not in session, because I believe we got work to do in this state, and we can't sit back any longer. The question for us is whether we want Oklahoma to be the only horse that didn't leave the gate. I think we can be the first one across the finish line. And that's what I hope to do as Lieutenant Governor, is to be focused on creating opportunities for the people of our state. I'm in this race not because I believe I'm entitled to be Lieutenant Governor. I'm not from a wealthy family. I'm not from a family that's politically connected. In fact, I will tell you, my family all hates politics. And I'm not even sure they like politicians. But I think they may like me, but I'm not for sure some days. But I will tell you, I believe that we must earn the trust of the voters of this state. We must go out and talk about a vision that we're willing to work towards. And I think people will respond to know that you'll work hard every day on their behalf. And that's what I intend to do as Lieutenant Governor.